Hi! If you've got a webcam on your PC, you can set up head tracking for free. What is head tracking, you say? It's a combination of software and hardware that'll track the movement of your head and try to match the camera in the sim to your point of view. For example, when you look to the left in real life, the camera in the sim follows that movement. Since we already have a zillion controls and keys to deal with in the sim, removing the need to control the camera with a hat or your keyboard can be a real boon to having an enjoyable and productive session in FS2020. Before you proceed, you might want to run the camera application in Windows to ensure that your webcam is fully functional. I'll preface this by saying that I have nothing to do with the creation of any of the products in this video. They're all owned by their respective creators. The most popular implementation of this technology for Sims is called TrackIR. It uses a dedicated IR camera to track your head's movements, and it's an excellent product. However, it's, in my opinion, a bit pricey at $150 US. There are a number of alternatives out there, such as FaceTrackNoir. This one costs about $5, but I found it was a bit too heavy on CPU usage for my needs. After looking at a number of different solutions, I narrowed my choices down to OpenTrack, developed by a Russian and a Polish developer team whose names I won't attempt to butcher here. I've listed them in the description of this video. OpenTrack is a free open source head tracking application. It's compatible with FS2020 and AI Track, developed by AIR Legend, which is an open source webcam face tracking application, and it's compatible with OpenTrack. Before we go any further, I just want to say that this video is meant to get you up and running quickly with this technology. It's not an in-depth analysis of these applications, and as such, I don't dive into every possible option. I focus on those elements that I feel will get you up and running as quickly as possible. Feel free to explore all of the options in these applications. You won't break anything. Using OpenTrack, you can opt to use something called Aruco instead of AI Track to generate the tracking data, but I was never able to get it to work at all. Let's get OpenTrack installed real fast and look at the options we have for setting up Aruco before I move on to the solution that actually worked for me with AI Track. Download and install OpenTrack using the link in the description of this video. Since OpenTrack can be set up to support different applications, you can create profiles specific to multiple applications. I'm just going to be updating the existing default profile for this demonstration, but you can click on the word profile to create a new one or duplicate an existing one, etc. You might want to do this if you have separate configurations for, say, X-Plane 11, FS2020, and DCS Elite Dangerous, or what have you. For this demo, I'll just modify the existing default profile. On the input drop-down, click on the option for using Aruco. On the output side, click on the FreeTrack 2.0 Enhanced. This is what is supported in FS2020 for head tracking. For the filter, I use Acela, this one here, but feel free to try the others, see if any of them work better for you. Now click on Options and select the Output tab. I only have yaw, pitch, and x-axis enabled, with pitch inverted for use in FS2020. Because my monitor and the camera are at a slight angle to me when I'm using the computer, I offset the yaw by 1 degree to compensate for that. And this is so that when I'm actually looking straight ahead, OpenTrack compensates for that slight angle. Click OK and return to the main screen. Now you'll need to print out an Aruco pattern that looks like this. I've linked to a PNG of one in the description of this video. It should have good contrast for tracking, so make sure the black areas print out as black and not gray. Once printed out, cut it out so it has a minimum of 1 centimeter border around it. Then attach it to some kind of card or cardboard. Finally, attach it to a hat or headset so that your webcam can clearly see it. Once that's complete, put the Aruco on your head and click Start on OpenTrack. When you do this, it will take OpenTrack a minute to get going, and once it's going, it will show you what your webcam sees in the upper left. Move your head around, or just the Aruco if you haven't mounted it, and the pink octopus should follow your movements. As stated previously, I was never able to get this to work at all, so you're on your own with it here. I opted for another solution called AI Track that actually tracks your facial features, and I found that this worked acceptably for my simming use. It can be a little janky, and I know that others that have implemented the Aruco method have reported superior results, but the results that I got were fine for my purposes, and I hope they'll be fine for yours as well. Now, on the OpenTrack's main screen, click the Input drop-down and select UDP over Network like this. Now click the little hammer next to the drop-down to get the properties for that setting. Make note of the port setting, as we will need this value in a moment. My default was 4242 and that worked fine. Click OK here to dismiss this dialog box. Now download and run AI Track using the link provided in the description. Since it doesn't modify any system folders or the registry, I can just copy it to my desktop. It doesn't need an install. I'll copy it to a permanent home later. Once downloaded and copied to your system, run the application. Click on Configuration and you should see some settings for your webcam. 30 FPS is a default, and this is the maximum for most webcams. But if you know that yours supports a higher FPS, feel free to increase this value to get smoother results from the head tracking. In the upper right is a checkbox that says Use Remote OpenTrack Client. Click this to enable this feature. In the IP box, enter the value 127.0.0.1, and in the port box, enter the port value that we got from OpenTrack of 4242, or the value that you got if it was different. At the bottom, click on Apply, and then click on the X at the upper right to close this window. Once you're back at the main screen for AI Track, click on Start Tracking. After a short delay, an image of what your webcam sees should occupy the upper portion of the screen. Now switch over to OpenTrack and click on the Start button. It'll take it a moment to begin processing the tracking data, and once it does, the pink octopus should move and reflect the movement of your head like this. The no video message is expected, so don't worry about that. Now fire up FS2020 and get into an aircraft and give it a test. If everything is working, the camera in FS2020 should reflect the movements of your head. One final item before I wrap up this video is the mapping options that you have. Back at the OpenTrack app's main screen is this mapping button. Press this and you should see sensitivity graphs similar to what you might see in the control setup for FS2020. You can select an axis that you have mapped using the tabs at the top. You can click at the bottom of the graph for a given axis and create an adjustment point. I recommend adding one at the bottom of each and sliding it over to the right just a bit to create a dead zone. This way you have a little bit of free play with your head movement, and the camera will be a little less twitchy when you move your head slightly. I hope this video helped someone out there. If you liked it, please click on like. That really helps the video. And that's it for this video, and until the next one, take care.